In a rare display of unity, Congress passed the Epsteinfilestransparency a landmark piece of legislation aimed at shedding light on one of the most controversial and secretive scandals in recent history. This act demands full disclosure of all documents and communications related to Jeffrey Epstein's scandal, which has implicated numerous high-profile individuals across various sectors. The bill's swift passage, with a House vote of 427-1 and unanimous Senate consent, highlights the immense public pressure and the bipartisan agreement on the need for transparency. This act challenges the long-standing secrecy that has protected powerful figures linked to Epstein, aiming to hold them accountable and provide justice for the victims. The bill's journey from a fringe issue to a legislative priority reflects a significant shift in the political landscape, driven by public outcry and relentless media coverage. Transparency has become a potent force in modern politics, compelling the executive branch to disclose long-hidden truths and ensuring that no one is above the law. Survivors, journalists, and lawmakers have driven this historic action, their combined efforts shining a light on the dark corners of power and influence. The nation now braces for revelations long kept in the dark, as the Epsteinfilestransparency promises to unveil the truth and bring justice to those affected. In a stunning turn of events, former President Donald Trump sent shockwaves through the political establishment with a dramatic reversal on the Epsteinfilestransparency. For weeks, Trump had been a vocal opponent of the bill, dismissing it as a partisan ploy and urging his allies in Congress to block its passage. His stance seemed unwavering, and many believed the legislation was destined to stall. But then, seemingly overnight, everything changed. The moment Trump announced his support for the act, the political world was thrown into chaos. Lawmakers on both sides of the aisle scrambled to respond, with some praising his newfound commitment to transparency, while others questioned his motives. Political analysts filled the airwaves, dissecting every word and gesture, trying to make sense of the sudden pivot. Initially, Trump's opposition to the bill had energized his base, who saw it as another example of him standing up to what he called witch hunts. But as public pressure mounted and calls for accountability grew louder, Trump recalibrated his approach. In a series of high-profile statements, he urged Republicans to back the bill, framing it as a victory for the American people and a blow against political secrecy. This abrupt shift left GOP leaders scrambling to realign their strategies. Many had publicly echoed Trump's earlier opposition, only to find themselves now having to support the very legislation they had criticized. The episode was a vivid demonstration of Trump's enduring influence over the Republican Party, as even the most senior leaders quickly fell in line with his new position. By embracing transparency, Trump managed to neutralize potential attacks from his political opponents, who had been preparing to use his resistance to the bill as a campaign issue. Instead, he flipped the narrative, positioning himself as a champion of openness and daring his critics to match his call for accountability. What had started as a defensive maneuver quickly became an offensive strategy. Trump's move forced his adversaries to rethink their approach, challenging them to prove any wrongdoing rather than simply accuse. The conversation shifted from allegations and suspicion to a broader debate about transparency in government. The entire episode exposed the fragility of GOP leadership under Trump's sway. Many within the party were left looking uncertain and divided, unsure whether to follow Trump's lead or risk alienating their own supporters. The rapid shift in messaging revealed just how much the party's direction still hinges on a single figure. More than anything, the moment highlighted the extraordinary power of one individual to reshape national conversations. Trump's ability to command attention and dictate the terms of debate remains unmatched, even years after leaving office. His actions sent ripples through every corner of the political landscape. As the dust settled, both allies and adversaries were left scrambling to adjust to the new reality. The political landscape had shifted once again, proving that in today's America, a single decision from a powerful figure can upend the status quo in an instant. In a moment that would soon become the subject of heated debate, the halls of Congress echoed with a near-unanimous call for transparency. The Epsteinfilestransparency a bill designed to shed light on one of the most controversial cases in recent memory, was on the verge of passing with overwhelming support from both sides of the aisle. Yet, amidst the sea of raised hands, one stood alone. Congressman Clayhiggins, representing Louisiana, cast the only dissenting vote, standing in stark contrast to his colleagues. His solitary gesture was not one of defiance for its own sake, but a deliberate act rooted in deep concern. Higgins, a former law enforcement officer with years of experience investigating sensitive cases, understood the power and peril of information. He worried that releasing the files without careful review could inadvertently harm innocent people, individuals whose names might appear in documents, but who had no involvement in any wrongdoing. His background gave him a unique perspective. Higgins had seen firsthand how reputations could be destroyed by association, even when no crime had been committed. He knew that once a name was made public, the damage could be irreversible, regardless of the truth. In passionate remarks to his peers, Higgins raised the alarm about the potential for collateral damage. He argued that massive, unfiltered document dumps could sweep up innocent bystanders, exposing them to public scrutiny, harassment, or worse. The files, he warned, were likely to contain the names of people who were never charged, never accused, and never even suspected of any crime. Their only mistake might have been a fleeting connection, a mention in a report, or a misinterpreted detail. Higgins's vote brought to the forefront a fundamental tension in American democracy: the balance between the public's right to know and the individual's right to privacy. It was a reminder that transparency, while essential, must be weighed against the potential for unintended harm. For many, his stance was a call for caution, a plea to remember that behind every document, every name, there are real people and real lives that could be upended by a single disclosure. Higgins urged his colleagues and the nation to consider the weight of responsibility that comes with the power to reveal secrets. He asked, "Is the pursuit of truth worth the risk of innocent lives being caught in the crossfire?" As the debate continues, Higgins's lone vote stands as a powerful reminder. In our quest for justice and transparency, we must never lose sight of the potential human cost. The Epstein Files Transparency Act exposed deep fractures within the GOP. Initially opposed, GOP leaders faced a realignment after Trump's reversal. A faction led by Representative Thomas Massie demanded transparency, clashing with party strategy. Trump's support shattered existing alignments, forcing leaders to retreat. The episode revealed Trump's dominance over party strategy. It highlighted a divide between establishment and populist wings. The bill's passage illustrated the ongoing struggle within the GOP. The Epstein Files Transparency Act mandates the DOJ to release all unclassified records related to Epstein and Maxwell. The Attorney General has 30 days to comply, preventing bureaucratic delays. The law demands disclosure of flight logs, calendars, and internal DOJ communications. It aims to replace speculation with documented facts. The act is a tool for maximum disclosure, prying open long-sealed secrets. Congress's intent is clear: bring Epstein's affair into public scrutiny. Despite the act's clear language, skepticism persists about DOJ's transparency. Exceptions allow the Attorney General to withhold information, raising concerns. Critics fear these clauses could shield powerful individuals. The DOJ's past handling of Epstein's case fuels distrust. The public fears a heavily redacted version of the files. Lawmakers vow to monitor the process closely. The battle for transparency continues, testing the DOJ's commitment. The next 30 days will reveal the Attorney General's adherence to the law. Survivors of Epstein's abuse held a vigil at the U.S. Capitol, marking the act's passage. For them, it was a step toward justice, acknowledging their suffering. Annie Farmer, a survivor, spoke of institutional betrayal and the need for accountability. The vigil honored Virginia Giuffre, a prominent accuser who died by suicide. The focus on victims underscores the file's significance beyond politics. The release is about reclaiming stories and ensuring such abuse never happens again. The impending release of Epstein files has turned Washington into a political battlefield. Accusations and denials fly as the files may name high-profile figures. Past selective leaks preview the chaos to come. Each side prepares to weaponize information for political gain. The controversy around Delegate Stacey Plaskett shows the volatility of any Epstein association. Anxiety grips the political world as the release deadline approaches. The files release will trigger intense scrutiny and media frenzy. The release of Epstein files marks a watershed moment, but not the final chapter. The disclosure's impact on powerful figures and justice for victims remains uncertain. The files could spur new investigations or fuel conspiracy theories. The DOJ faces scrutiny. Internal communications may trigger calls for reform. The release tests institutions' accountability. The files alone don't guarantee justice. It requires commitment to truth. The nation's response will shape the legacy of the Epstein Files Transparency Act.